Canto 32. If I possessed the harsh and grating style to suit the miserable hole on which the other circling rocks converge and press, I might squeeze more juice from my ideas. Since I don't, I'm unwilling to begin. To depict the base of the universe is not an easy task to undertake, not for tongues that waggle baby prattle. But may those ladies now aid my verses who helped Amphion when he walled up Thebes, so my tale will not stray from what I saw. O horde, evil-born beyond all others that crowd this place, hard even to describe, much better you had been created beast. We had reached deep down in the murky pit below the level of the giant's feet, and I was gazing at the soaring wall when I heard a voice speak, addressing me. "Watch how you step," it said. "Be careful here as you make your way. Don't tread on the heads of this miserable fraternity." At this I turned and saw in front of me, at my feet, a lake so deeply frozen it seemed made more of glass than any ice. The Danube in Austria has never, deep in winter, showed a crust as thick to veil its current's flow, nor has the Don beneath its cold sky. If Mount Tambernic or Pietrapana crashed upon it, it would not creak even at the edges. The way that croaking frogs poke out their heads above the water in the season when the peasant woman dreams of gleaning, just so these wretched souls were locked in ice. Blue, up to where our shame displays itself with their chattering teeth sounding like stalks. Everyone kept his face bent, looking down. Their mouths testified to the cold they felt, their eyes to the misery in their hearts. After looking round a while, I glanced down. At my feet I saw two heads locked so tight that their hair had intermingled. "Tell me," I said, "you with your chests pressed together, who are you?" At this they bent back their necks, and when their faces were raised up to me, tears from eyes already wet trickled to their lips and froze, bonding them closer. No clamp fastened wood to wood as tightly. Mad with rage, they butt each other like goats. Then one who had lost both ears to the cold spoke with his face still bent over the ice. "Why did you keep on staring at us? If you want to know who these two are here, that valley the Bessenzio comes down was once theirs, and their father Alberto's. The same mother bore them. Search Caina, you will not find one soul more deserving to be locked in ice, not even the one whose chest and shadow were pierced with one blow of Arthur's. Not Focaccia, or this soul who blocks my vision forward with his head. Living he was Sassol Mascheroni. If you're a Tuscan, you'll have heard of him. And to avoid prompting me to say more, my own name was Camiscondi Pazzi. I'm waiting here for Carlino's crime. His guilt will seem to mitigate my own." After that I saw 1,000 faces purple with the cold. Every time since then I felt a shudder at a frozen pond. As we continued on, closer to that central point upon which all weights converge, I in the relentless cold shivering, by will or fate or simple chance perhaps, passing among the heads, kicked a face. It screams in pain. "Why do you kick at me? If you've not come here to take revenge for Monteperti, then why pick on me?" "Master," I said, "just wait a moment here while I resolve my doubts about this man, and we can hurry as you feel the need." My guide paused, and so I asked the spirit, still cursing as bitterly as before, "Who might you be giving out such abuse?" "And who might you be in Antenora?" he replied, "kicking at people's faces, harder even than if you were alive." "I am alive," I replied, "and if fame is what you desire, you might value me. I can put your name among the others." He answered, "I want the opposite. Go! Don't pester me! You have no idea how to flatter as deep as this in hell." At this I grabbed him by the hair and said, "Name, and now, or the scalp comes off your head." "Pluck my head bald, or stamp 1,000 times," he said. "I shall not tell you who I am." My hand already held a twist of hair. I tugged some more away. He yelped in pain. "Hey, Bocco, what's wrong now?" a voice cried out. "Aren't you content with your chattering teeth that you shout now too? What devil has you?" "Enough," I said. "Say no more. To spite you, vicious traitor, I will carry the news of you when I return and bring you shame." To which he said, "Go then, say what you like, but should you make it back home, don't forget to mention him, so quick just now to speak. French silver is what he laments down here. Tell them I saw Daduera down deep in hell, where the guilty souls gather to cool off, And if they ask who else was there with him, say Di Beccaria was by your side, whose gullet was slit right through by Florence. And down the way a little, I believe, lies Gianni di Solenieri, there with Ganelon and Tibaldello, who unlocked Faenza's gates as it slept. Then moving on, we saw two shades sharing the same ice-hole, and packed so close, one head was on the other like a hat. And like a starving man devouring bread, the sinner above sank his teeth into the brains at the nape of the lower's neck. In fury Tydeus gnawed the temples of Menalippus with no more wrath than this one chewed the skull and other parts. "You! Tell me why you show such animal hatred to the one beneath you devour," I cried. "If your hatred of him is just, I, knowing who you are and what's his sin, shall repay you yet in the world above, unless my tongue shrivels before I die." Canto 33. The sinner paused then in his savage meal, lifting his mouth and wiping his lips clean with what hair remained on the backless skull. He then began. "You want me to revive a grief so desperate that even the thought before I speak clutches my heart with pain. But if my words are seeds which will one day bear the fruit of this traitor's infamy, whom I gnaw, then I shall speak, but weeping. I don't know your name, nor how you came here, but to hear you speak you sound Florentine. I was Count Ugolino, you should know, and this is Archbishop Ruggieri. I will tell you why I am his neighbour. Through his evil plots and my trust of him, I was put in prison where I was killed. Though of this I'm sure there's no need to speak. What you cannot have heard of, however, is the manner of my death, and how cruel. Hear me first, and then judge if he wronged me. Through a narrow window in the tower, called the Tower of Hunger after me, and in which many more will be shut up, I'd glimpsed many moons pass overhead when my evil dream ripped the future's veil. I dreamt this man was master of the hunt, pursuing the wolf and wolf cubs into the hills that block out looker from the peasant's view with his lean bitch-hounds, well-trained and eager. With him were the Gualandi, Sismondi, and the Lanfranchi riding up in front. The chase was short. The wolf, father and sons appeared to tire, and then I thought I saw long fangs sunk deep and their flanks ripped open. Waking before the light of dawn, I heard the whimper of my children with me there, asking for bread in their sleep. You'd be cruel indeed if you remained still unmoved by the thought of what my heart was dreading. If you're not weeping now, do you ever? The children woke. The hour they fed us neared, and everyone was anxious from their dreams. Then, from below, I heard them pounding nails into that dreadful tower's door. Silent I stared into the faces of my sons. I did not weep. Inside I turned to stone. They wept, and my little Anselmo said, "Why look like that, father? Why? What's wrong?" And still I did not cry or answer them all that day and night, till the new sun dawned. A feeble ray found its way through the gloom, and I made out 4 faces like my own. I gnawed my hands with anguish. My children, thinking hunger was the cause, came to me and said, "But feed on us, father. The pain we'd suffer would be less. You were the one who clothed us in this flesh. Take it from us." I calmed myself to cause them less distress. We passed that day silent, and so the next. Oh, heartless earth, you should have gaped for us. We reached the 4th day, and my Gaddo cried, prostrate at my feet, "Why do you not help? Help me, father." There he died. I watched then, as one by one the other 3 fell dead. With the passing of the 5th and 6th day, I, blind now, started groping over them, though dead, calling out their names for 2 days, until hunger overwhelmed my sorrow. With his tale told, eyes twisted, he clamped down on the skull again, his teeth like a dog's, sharp and strong, tearing against the bone. Ah, Pisa, stain of shame on the fair land where sea is heard. Since your neighbours are slow to punish, may those islands, Caprea and Gorgona, shift ground to make a bar that damns the Arno, and drown every soul. For even if Count Ugolino earned his name with treachery, disposing of your forts, it was wrong his helpless children suffered. From there we carried on to where the ice wraps a tight binding round other sinners, with faces not turned down but looking up. Here weeping itself keeps them from weeping. Tears become a barrier for their grief, which turns in on them, adding to their pain. Their first tears, gathering together, freeze, and like a visor, made of crystal glass, fill up the hollow beneath the eyebrow. Although the cold had sucked the sensation from my face, numbing it like a callus, I sensed a wind, and wondering from where, I asked, "Master, what causes this to stir? Surely this far down the air is windless." And he said to me, "We shall soon be where your eyes will answer that question and see what keeps the down-swept air in motion here." Then one wretch, encased in the frozen crust, screamed out to us, "Wicked pair, whose cruelty assigns you to here, the final outpost, break away this icy veil from my eyes so I may vent a little misery before my weeping freezes hard again." So I said, "If you want my help, tell me who you are. Then, if I don't, may I go down to the bottom of the ice?" He answered, "I am Friar Alberigo, who offered fruit from an evil garden. In this place I get dates for every fig that I gave." "Oh," I said, "you are dead already, then?" "How my body does in the world above, I've no knowledge. But Ptolemy here, the privilege is this. Quite often a soul will be thrust down to this level before Atropos has sliced through its thread, and so you may scrape off this glaze of tears from my face more willingly. Let me say, when a soul turns traitor the way I did, a demon takes its place in the body, governing its actions until the time when its allotted years have run their course. The soul falls straight down into this cistern. Above, perhaps, the body still appears, of the shade that winters here behind me. But if you are just from there, you should know him. Ser Brancadoria, now encased here for many years." "I think," I said, "you lie. For Brancadoria is not yet dead. He eats and drinks and sleeps and puts on clothes." "Up there in Malibranchi's ditch," he said, "that seething ditch of clinging pitch. The shade of Michael Zanchi had not yet arrived when Branca left his body to a devil, just as his kinsman did, who had performed the treachery too, as his accomplice. Now, reach out your hand and unseal my eyes." But I did not, for to be rude to him and his like is sufficient courtesy. Genoese, strange is the decency, all full of sins, festering corruption. Why has the earth not been washed clean of you, along with Romagna's most loathsome soul? I found one of you so much the sinner that his soul is already in Cocytus, but up above in the flesh appears alive. Canto 34. "The banners of the King of Hell advance towards us," said my master, moving on. "If you would see, look ahead for him now." Just as a distant windmill turns its sails, when a heavy fog begins blowing in, or night starts to fall. This, it seemed, I saw. But the gusts of wind were strong, and for shelter I drew behind my guide. We were at last, and I trembled to write it, in the place where shades were wholly covered by the ice, like wisps of straw in glass, just showing through. Some were lying flat, some with heads to us, others displaying the soles of their feet, and others were in a bow, bent feet to face. When we had travelled far enough ahead, My guide felt now was the time to reveal that creature who was once so beautiful. He made me stop, and stepping to one side, he said, "Look, here is Diz. Arm yourself now. Gather up all the courage you possess." How faint and cold I grew on hearing that. Reader, do not ask, I cannot write it. Words are inadequate for what I felt. I did not die, nor was I quite alive. Imagine, if you can, what I was like, deprived both of life and of death at once. The emperor of that realm of despair towered above the ice, from mid-chest up. A giant's height and mine would be closer than a giant to the length of his arm. Judge how large was the rest of him, with the arms and the body in proportion. If he was once as handsome as he now is ugly when he dared rebel against his maker, then all sorrow may well issue from him. What amazement when I looked up and saw one head wearing 3 faces. One in front was red, the other 2 joined with this one just above the middle of each shoulder. At the crown, all 3 attached together. The right face was shades of white and yellow. The left was coloured like the people's skin who come from where the Nile descending flows. 2 wings spread from under each, immense. I've never seen a ship with sails as huge, not feathered, but fashioned more like a bat's. These he beat constantly to keep 3 winds blowing and locking Cocytus in ice. He wept from all 6 eyes, down all 3 chins poured tears that mingled with a bloody foam. In each mouth his teeth raked at a sinner and ground away to keep all 3 in pain. The one, the front mouth gripped, found the biting nothing against the clawing of his hide. Often his back was raked clean of skin. "That soul up there, who suffers most torment," said my guide, "is Judas Iscariot, with his head inside and his legs flailing. Of those 2 others, their heads hanging out, being held by the black mouth, is Brutus, writhing there in silent desperation. The other still hefty as Cassius. But night has come once again. Now it's time we were on our way. We've seen it all." As he asked me then, I put my arms round him, and when the wings had opened wide enough, he grasped the shaggy flank and climbed down, holding to matted hair and crusts of ice. Then when we reached the swelling of the hip, straining, my guide manoeuvred upside down, his legs now where his head had been before. He grabbed the hair as if to climb up. I thought that we were going back to hell. "Hold tight," he said, sounding quite exhausted. "By these stairs we leave behind all evil." Then, slipping me through a rocky crevice, he settled me on its edge and climbed up, carefully working his way towards me. I raised my eyes, expecting I would see Lucifer as I had seen him before, but instead I saw his legs sticking up. The ignorant may guess at how that sight confused me, not knowing what point I'd crossed. "Come now," my master said, "and on your feet we have a way to go. The path is not easy. The sun already climbs the morning sky." It was no palace hall where we rested, but a kind of dungeon built by nature, barely lit with a floor rough underfoot. "Before I free myself from this abyss," I said, when I'd reached my feet, "explain, where is the ice? How is he upside down? And how in so short a time is it day?" "You imagine," he said to me, "you are still on the other side of the centre, where I first gripped the hair of the insidious worm, piercing the world, and descending you were. When I turned upside down, you passed the point toward which weight from everywhere is drawn. You stand beneath the other hemisphere, opposite the side covered by dry land, at the central point of which died the man whose life and birth were sinless. Your feet rest now upon a little sphere of which frozen Judica forms the other face. When it's morning here, it's evening there. The one whose hair we used for a ladder remains fixed in place as he was before. It was on this side he fell from heaven. The land once spread out here in fear of him fled beneath the sea north to our hemisphere. Seeking to escape, the land on this side rushed upwards mountainous and made this cave. At the limit of the cave, below this place and the farthest point from Beelzebub, is a place known not by sight, but only by the sound of a stream trickling through eroded rock, slowly winding in a gentle descent. My guide and I came to that hidden road, to journey back to the glittering world. We did not care for any rest, but climbed. He first, I following, until I glimpsed, through a round opening, heaven's beauty. There we emerged, to see, once more, the stars.